Late January 1945, 3:15 p.m. Somewhere in the frozen forests of Holzheim, Belgium. An American first sergeant steps through a wall of falling snow and into a small clearing ringed by pine trees. He stops so fast his boots slide on ice. 90 German soldiers are facing him. Some already hold rifles. Others are bending down, grabbing car 9/8s from a scattered pile in the snow. 4 American GIs kneel 10 feet away, hands laced behind their heads, faces drained white. These Germans were prisoners 30 minutes ago, captured during a dawn raid, left under light guard while the sergeant scouted the route ahead. Only 4 men could be spared. Now they're free, armed, and positioning themselves to ambush the rest of his company from behind. A Wehrmacht officer breaks from the group, strides forward through knee-deep snow, raises a machine pistol, jams the barrel directly against the sergeant's sternum, right over his heart, screams something in German, guttural, furious. The sergeant doesn't speak German, neither do his men. The officer screams again, louder, spit flying from his mouth. The gun grinds harder into the American's chest. The sergeant looks at the 90 Germans watching him, looks at his 4 captured soldiers, looks at the weapon pressed against his ribs, and starts laughing. The German officer's face twists. Confusion flickers across his eyes, then vanishes beneath a wave of rage. He screams a 3rd time. The sergeant laughs harder, a deep, genuine belly laugh that echoes off the trees. What happens next takes exactly 45 seconds. 21 Germans will die in the snow. The rest will drop their weapons and surrender for the 2nd time that day. And this sergeant will walk into legend for one of the most audacious reversals in the European theater. All because he couldn't stop laughing. For decades, stories like this were often dismissed as tall tales. But this isn't a myth. The sergeant's name was Leonard Funk, and looking at him, you would never guess he was a killer. Leonard wasn't a giant. He was born in Braddock, Pennsylvania, a steel town east of Pittsburgh. He was 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed 140 pounds, soaking wet. A former store clerk who spent the Great Depression stocking shelves and helping veterans with paperwork. When his draft number came up in June 1941, the intake officer took one look at his small frame and mild manners and probably thought, office duty. They were wrong. Funk didn't just volunteer for the infantry. He volunteered for the paratroopers, the elite airborne forces designed to jump out of perfectly good aircraft and land behind enemy lines. By January 1945, the little clerk was a hardened veteran. He had jumped into Normandy on D-Day and led lost men through 40 miles of enemy territory. He had fought in Holland during Operation Market Garden, assaulting artillery positions outnumbered 7-1. He had learned the unwritten rules of survival. Keep your head down, trust your squad, and never assume anything is secure until you've checked it twice. Which is why, on this particular afternoon in late January, Leonard Funk is walking back through a snow-covered forest toward a clearing where 90 German prisoners are supposed to be sitting quietly under guard. He's about to discover that sometimes checking twice isn't enough. The sergeant's name wasn't lost. It was Leonard Alfred Funk, Jr. He didn't come from the cornfields of the Midwest. He came from the smokestacks of Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, a steel town 8 miles east of Pittsburgh. He was born in August 1916, which meant the Great Depression didn't just touch his childhood, it defined his early adulthood. By the time he graduated high school in 1934, college was a fantasy. Jobs were scarce. You took what you could get. For Leonard, that meant growing up fast. He learned responsibility early, taking care of his younger brother while the economy crumbled around them. He wasn't a football star or a factory foreman. He was a clerk, quiet, reliable, unnoticed. June 1941. With war raging across Europe, Congress extends the draft. Funk's number comes up. He reports to the induction center at Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. He is 24 years old, already considered old for a frontline soldier. The intake officer looks him over and probably suppresses a laugh. He stands just 5 feet, 5 inches tall. He weighs 140 pounds. He doesn't look like a warrior. He looks like the guy who files your taxes. The Army physical examiner takes one look at the small frame and mild demeanor and stamps him for clerk duty. Safe, behind a desk. They were wrong. Funk doesn't want a desk. He volunteers for the paratroopers. In 1941, the American Airborne is a brand new concept, jumping out of perfectly good aircraft to land behind enemy lines and fight while surrounded. To most soldiers, it sounds like suicide. To Leonard Funk, it sounds like a job that needs doing. The training is designed to break you. 5 weeks of running, climbing, and falling. It washes out half the candidates, men twice Funk's size. But the little clerk from Pennsylvania doesn't break. He earns his jump wings. He is assigned to Company C, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. The All-Americans. By the time they ship to England, Funk is 27 years old. Ancient by paratrooper standards, where most squadmates are barely 20. But Funk has something the kids don't: maturity, steadiness, the kind of quiet competence that makes men follow you into hell. By D-Day, he isn't just a soldier. He's a squad leader, and he is about to prove that courage has nothing to do with size. By January 1945, the war has a rhythm. Not a pleasant one, not predictable, but a rhythm nonetheless. Push forward, dig in, take fire, return fire. Repeat until you're dead or the Germans surrender. Leonard Funk's unit, Company C of the 508th, is operating in the frozen gap between Belgium and Germany. The forest all looks the same: pine trees heavy with snow, villages with names nobody can pronounce, roads that aren't really roads, just frozen mud tracks that turn into rivers of slush when the sun comes out. The Allied advance is grinding. That's the word everyone uses. Grinding. Like the whole war is a machine with broken gears, screaming with every inch. The German army is collapsing, but collapsing doesn't mean harmless. It means desperate, and desperate soldiers are the most dangerous kind. Funk is now the acting executive officer. The officer who should have held the job was killed, and the company is dangerously under strength. To fill the ranks, Funk has to pull men from the rear: clerks, supply personnel, cooks. Men who spent the war behind desks are now holding rifles in the snow, looking to the little paratrooper from Pennsylvania to keep them alive. The orders come down every morning. Clear this forest section. Secure that crossroad. Take this village. But underneath the orders there is a darker tension. Division command wants prisoners for intelligence, but for the men on the ground, taking prisoners is complicated. Just weeks earlier, near Malmedy, SS troops had massacred 84 American prisoners in a field, shot them down like cattle. The news had hardened every GI in the sector, yet Funk follows orders. He tells his makeshift platoon, "We need bodies for the POW cages, not bodies for graves registration. It's not mercy, it's math." Every German who surrenders is one less German shooting at you. And every American who doesn't have to fire his rifle is one less American who might catch a bullet when someone fires back. So the patrols push deeper into the forest, eyes scanning for tripwires, for the glint of a rifle scope in the branches. They are looking for pockets of resistance, offering surrender before opening fire. It's working. Until the day it stops working. The patrol pushes through the blizzard toward the village of Holzheim. They have marched 15 miles through waist-deep snow. The temperature is well below freezing. Funk is leading a platoon of makeshift warriors, clerks and supply guys who have barely fired a weapon in combat. But under Funk's command, they move like veterans. They reach the village edge. Funk signals the squad leaders. They understand without words. Flank left and right. Clear the buildings. The assault is brutal and efficient. They move from house to house, kicking in doors, shouting, "Hände hoch!" It turns out the village is full of Germans, but they are disorganized, scattered. Funk's men overwhelm them before they can mount a defense. In one house, they capture 30 men. In another, 50. Within minutes, the fighting slows down. The Americans have captured a staggering number of enemy soldiers, mostly rear echelon troops, who were expecting a quiet winter morning, not a raid by the 82nd Airborne. They corral the prisoners in the courtyard of a large farmhouse, 80 German soldiers, standing in a cluster, hands behind their heads, looking stunned. No casualties, not one American lost. The company commander would be thrilled, except for one glaring problem. The math. Funk has a depleted platoon. He needs to secure 80 prisoners, but he also has to finish clearing the rest of the village where resistance is still active. He looks at the numbers. He can only spare 4 men to guard the prisoners. That's 1 guard for every 20 Germans. Military doctrine says you need a ratio of at least 1 to 10, preferably more. But Funk doesn't have more. He makes a calculated risk. He picks 4 men, reliable soldiers, including a calm corporal, and positions them around the courtyard. "Keep them here," Funk orders. "Disarm them completely. If anyone moves, shoot them. We'll send reinforcements when we can." Then, First Sergeant Funk turns his back. He takes the rest of his squad and heads back into the village to finish the fight. It's standard procedure. Secure the prisoners, continue the mission. He has no idea that he has just set the stage for a disaster. The village of Holzheim falls silent. Not peaceful, just silent. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Funk checks his watch. He's been clearing the other side of the village for 20 minutes. The company reinforcements should be moving up by now. Time to head back to the farmhouse. Make sure the prisoners are secure. Maybe find some hot coffee in that supply depot. He walks back through the driving snow. Visibility has dropped to 50 feet. The flakes are fat and heavy, sticking to everything. It's the kind of weather where you could walk past a German squad and never see them. Funk isn't worried. His guards have orders. Keep them contained. Shoot anyone who moves. 4 guards against 80 unarmed men sounds like bad math, but as long as the Germans stay scared and his men stay alert, it holds up. He expects to turn the corner and see his 4G bored and cold, watching over a huddled mass of defeated enemies. He rounds the corner of the farmhouse. He stops so fast his boots slide on the ice. The math has changed. 90 German soldiers are facing him. Some are already holding rifles. Others are bending down, frantically grabbing weapons from the pile in the snow. His 4 American paratroopers, the men he promised to protect, are kneeling in the slush, hands laced behind their heads, faces drained white. Everything is wrong. The world has reversed. While Funk was away, a German patrol wearing white camouflage capes had slipped out of the blizzard like ghosts. They had overwhelmed the guards, freed the prisoners, and rearmed the entire company. Now Funk has walked straight into the kill zone. A German officer breaks from the group. He isn't holding a pistol. He is gripping an MP-40 submachine gun. He strides forward through the knee-deep snow and jams the barrel of the machine gun directly into Funk's stomach. He screams something in German, guttural, furious. The 4 guards never saw them coming. While Funk was clearing the village, a German patrol had been moving through the outskirts. 10 men, maybe 12, wearing white winter capes over their uniforms. Snow camouflage. Against the white blizzard, they were invisible. Ghosts in the storm. They had been watching the farmhouse for 10 minutes. Waiting. When they saw the main American force move away, leaving only 4 men with the prisoners, they made their move. They approached from the blind side of the barn, silent. The falling snow muffled every sound. By the time the guards realized something was wrong, German rifles were already pressed against their backs. No shots fired, no shouting, just cold metal and quiet German voices. Drop your weapons, kneel, hands behind your head. The guards complied. What else could they do? 4 against 12, already surrounded, already beaten. The German patrol leader immediately understood the situation. 80 captured Wehrmacht soldiers, 4 American guards, no other Americans in sight. This wasn't just a rescue operation. This was an opportunity. He barked orders. His men moved fast. They rushed the prisoners, pointed them toward the pile of confiscated weapons. Car 98 rifles, MP-40 submachine guns, stick grenades. Everything the Americans had taken was returned in seconds. The freed Germans armed themselves quickly. No celebration, no talking. They knew they were deep in enemy territory. Every minute they stayed here increased the chance of American reinforcements arriving. The officer organized them with brutal efficiency. Form a perimeter, machine guns covering the road, riflemen in a semicircle facing the direction Funk had gone. The 4 captured guards were forced to kneel in the snow where everyone could see them. The plan was simple. Wait for the Americans to return, ambush them, kill them all, then use the captured weapons to break out of the village. 90 armed Germans, high ground, concealment, the element of surprise. Every tactical advantage was theirs. The Americans had nothing. They didn't even know they were walking into a trap. 15 minutes pass. The Germans wait in silence, rifles ready, eyes on the corner of the farmhouse. The snow falls heavier. Visibility drops further. Perfect conditions for an ambush. The Americans won't see anything until they're 10 feet away. By then, it'll be too late. One of the guards, a kid with 3 weeks in combat, starts praying quietly. His lips move, but no sound comes out. Another guard, the corporal, stares at the corner of the building where Funk disappeared. Come on, he thinks. Don't come back. Keep clearing the houses. Stay away. But he knows Funk will return. That's who the first sergeant is. He checks on his men. He doesn't leave people behind. The German officer checks his watch, scans the road. Any minute now. Then a figure appears through the falling snow. American uniform. Thompson submachine gun slung casually over his shoulder. Leonard Funk steps around the corner. Funk's brain processes the scene in the time it takes his heart to beat twice. 90 Germans. Armed. Organized. his 4 guards on their knees, the German officer striding forward, MP-40 submachine gun raised, the barrel pressing deep into his stomach, the officer's mouth moving, words in German, probably surrender or drop your weapon or you're going to die. Option 1, comply, raise his hands, drop the Thompson, become a prisoner. Rational men surrender in this situation, but Funk isn't thinking rationally. He is thinking about Malmedy. Just weeks ago, word had reached his unit about the massacre near the Bognes crossroads. SS troops had herded 84 American prisoners into a field and mowed them down with machine guns. No trial, no questions, just murder. The news had changed everything. The old rules of war, the grim professionalism between enemies, were gone. The math is simple. Surrender equals a chance of survival, but not a guarantee, especially not to an officer who just orchestrated a perfect reversal and now has to decide what to do with witnesses. The machine pistol presses harder against his sternum. The officer's face is red, veins bulging in his neck. He's screaming now. Funk doesn't need to speak German to understand the subtext. You're beaten. Accept it. Option 2, fight. Unsling the Thompson. Start shooting. Take as many of them down as possible before they kill him. He'd be dead in 2 seconds. Maybe 3 if he's lucky. The Thompson is slung over his shoulder. The safety is on. By the time his hands reach the weapon, 90 rifles will cut him down. He might kill the officer, maybe 1 or 2 others. Then he's dead and his guards are dead. The math doesn't work. The officer screams louder. Spit flies from his mouth. The MP-40 grinds into Funk's ribs. He's running out of time. The officer wants compliance, wants surrender, wants this American to acknowledge defeat, which means the officer expects certain behaviors. Hands up, weapon dropped, eyes down, fear. That's the script. That's what prisoners do. Option 3, break the script. Funk realizes that human beings operate on pattern recognition. We see a threat, we respond according to learned behaviors. Soldier points, gun at enemy. Enemy surrenders or enemy fights. Those are the only 2 patterns the brain expects. Do something outside those patterns and the brain hesitates, tries to process, tries to understand. That hesitation is measured in milliseconds, but milliseconds matter. Funk looks at the officer, looks at the submachine gun pressed against his heart, looks at the 90 Germans watching him, looks at his 4 terrified guards kneeling in the snow, and makes a choice that defies every survival instinct in his body. He tilts his head back, opens his mouth, and laughs. The sound that comes out of Leonard Funk's mouth isn't a nervous chuckle. It isn't a fake laugh. It is genuine, deep, a belly laugh that echoes across the frozen courtyard and bounces off the farmhouse walls. The German officer stops mid-sentence. His mouth hangs open. The barrel of the MP-40 wavers, pulling back an inch from Funk's chest. His eyes narrow with confusion. Funk keeps laughing. He bends forward slightly, shoulders shaking. His hands come up to his stomach like he's trying to hold himself together. The laughter gets louder, more authentic, like someone just told the funniest joke he's ever heard. The officer's face goes through a transformation. Confusion, then anger, then confusion again. He doesn't know what to do with this. Prisoners don't laugh. They beg, they cry, they shake, they comply. They don't stand there cackling like a madman while 90 rifles point at them. The officer glances back at his men. Some of them are staring. A few are smiling uncertainly. The absurdity is contagious. This American is laughing at them, at the situation, at death itself. It doesn't make sense. The officer screams again, louder this time. He steps closer, jams the muzzle of the submachine gun back against Funk's ribs. His face is purple now, veins standing out on his forehead. He's screaming in German, long streams of words, commands, threats, probably telling the American he's going to die, probably promising to cut him in half with a burst of fire, probably calling him insane. Funk hears none of it, understands none of it. He just keeps laughing, harder now, like the officer's rage is part of the joke. He even manages to gesture toward the officer while laughing, as if to say, "Can you believe this guy?" One of the German soldiers, a young private with a rifle, actually does laugh. A short bark of sound before he catches himself and goes silent. But it's enough. The moment has fractured. The pattern has broken. The officer's grip on the weapon is shaking now. Not from fear, from fury, from confusion, from the complete cognitive dissonance of an enemy who refuses to behave like an enemy. He's screaming at maximum volume. His voice is cracking. The MP-40 is grinding into Funk's chest hard enough to bruise. And Funk is still laughing, still bent over, hands on his stomach, eyes squeezed shut, except his hands aren't really on his stomach. They're reaching up, slowly, naturally, like he's trying to catch his breath. Moving toward the Thompson slung over his shoulder, his left hand closes around the pistol grip. His right hand finds the barrel shroud. The officer sees the movement. He thinks the American is finally surrendering his weapon, finally complying. He relaxes, just for a second. Funk's hands move, not up, not away, down, second 0. The Thompson swings down from Funk's shoulder. The motion looks natural. It looks like compliance, but it is a lightning motion, faster than the German officer can process. Second one. The barrel comes level with the officer's chest. Funk's thumb flicks the safety off. His finger finds the trigger. Second 2, he squeezes. The Thompson roars. 30 rounds in the magazine. Rate of fire, 600 rounds per minute. At this range, the bullets don't just hit, they destroy. Second 3. The officer's chest opens up. The first burst catches him center mass. He is dead before he hits the ground. The MP-40 submachine gun tumbles from his hand and disappears into the snow. Second 4. Funk pivots left without thinking. Training takes over. Target selection. Nearest threat. A Wehrmacht soldier raising a rifle. Second 5. 3-round burst. The German drops. Seconds 6 through 20. Funk moves like a machine. Pivot. Fire. Pivot. Fire. The Thompson sprays an arc of lead across the ranks. It isn't spray and pray. It is controlled violence. A soldier reaching for a grenade. Down. A private raising a Car 9-8. Down. The Thompson bucks against his shoulder. Brass casings fly through the air, golden in the gray light, hissing as they hit the snow. Men scream. Men fall. The courtyard erupts. Second 21. Click. The magazine runs dry. Funk drops to one knee, yanks the empty mag, reaches to his belt. Second 22. Fresh magazine in. Slap the bottom. Second 23. Rack the bolt. Round in the chamber. The reload takes 2 seconds, muscle memory honed by thousands of hours of training. While reloading, he is screaming at his men, "Pick up their weapons! Pick up their weapons!" Second 24. The Germans are in chaos. Their officer is dead. The laughing prisoner is now killing them. Second 25. Chaos returns fire. Bullets crack past Funk's head. One round catches the American soldier standing beside him. The guard falls, dead in the snow. Seconds 26 through 40. The surviving guards scramble. They grab car 98s from the dead Germans. They start shooting. The Germans are caught in a crossfire they never expected. Funk rises from his knee, keeps firing. A German private aims from behind a tree. Funk stitches him with a burst. Another German throws his rifle down and raises his hands. Funk ignores him and moves to the next threat. Second 41. The formation breaks. Germans are throwing weapons away, hands shooting up, voices screaming, "Kamerad! Kamerad!" Second 42. Funk fires his last burst. Second 43. Silence. Not complete silence. Moaning, crying. The sound of men dying in the snow, but no more gunfire. Second 44. Funk surveys the carnage. Smoke rises from the barrel of his Thompson. Second 45. It's over. 21 German soldiers lie dead. 24 more are wounded. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the center of the courtyard. His Thompson is smoking. He is breathing hard. His ears are ringing from the gunfire. The world sounds like it's underwater. Around him, Germans kneel in the snow with their hands laced behind their heads, the ones still alive. 69 of them now, down from 90. 21 bodies lie scattered across the clearing, some face down, some face up. The snow is no longer white. It is a slurry of mud and red. Funk's hands are shaking. The adrenaline dump is hitting him. He's been running on pure instinct for 45 seconds. Now his body is catching up. His legs feel weak. His stomach churns. He wants to sit down. He doesn't. He looks at his surviving guards, the 3 men left standing. He looks at the body of the American soldier killed in the crossfire. Then he looks at the pile of dead Germans. He shakes his head and mutters the only thing that comes to mind, a quote that would later become legendary in the 82nd Airborne. "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." Then the soldier kicks back in. "Strip them," he orders. "Every weapon, every grenade, every knife. Check their boots, check their coats. I want them naked if you have to, but I want them disarmed." The guards move through the prisoners, pulling weapons from belts and pockets. Bayonets, pistols, stick grenades tucked inside jackets. One German has a Walther PPK hidden in his boot. Another has a trench knife strapped to his calf. "Move them away from the bodies," Funk says. 50 yards. I want clear space between them and anything they could use as a weapon. The prisoners are herded to the far side of the clearing, made to kneel again, hands behind heads. Anyone who moves gets a rifle barrel in their back. 15 minutes later, the reinforcements arrive. The company commander walks into the clearing. He's a veteran. He's seen a lot of war. But when he sees the carnage in the courtyard, he stops dead. 21 bodies, blood in the snow, 69 prisoners under guard, and Leonard Funk sitting on an ammunition crate, reloading magazines. "What the hell happened here, Sergeant?" the captain asks. Funk looks up. His hands have stopped shaking. He considers the question. How do you explain it? How do you put 45 seconds of insanity into words that make sense? "They ambushed us, sir," Funk says. "Freed the prisoners, rearmed them, had us dead to rights. And?" The captain is staring at the bodies, counting them, trying to do the math. "I walked into it. A German officer stuck a submachine gun in my chest, told me to surrender." "So what did you do?" Funk slides a fresh magazine into the Thompson, racks the bolt, safeties the weapon, looks up at his captain. "I laughed, sir, and then I shot him." The captain stares at him for a long moment, looks at the bodies, looks at the prisoners, looks back at the little clerk from Pennsylvania. You laughed. Yes, sir. And then you killed 21 of them. 21. Yes, sir. The captain shakes his head. He doesn't say anything for a while. Finally, he speaks quietly. I'm recommending you for the Silver Star, maybe higher. Funk shrugs. Just did my job. Sir. Your job was to scout ahead, Funk, not fight 90 Germans alone. They didn't give me much choice, sir. The story of the Laughing Killer spread through the 82nd Airborne Division like wildfire. By the next morning, every soldier in the regiment knew. By the end of the week, the legend had jumped the lines to the 101st and the infantry divisions moving up from the rear. As with all war stories, the details mutated with every telling. In the chow lines and foxholes, soldiers whispered that Funk had killed 30 Germans, then 50. One version had him dual-wielding Thompson submachine guns, one in each hand, blazing away like a gangster in a Hollywood movie. Another claimed he was cackling like a maniac the entire time, stepping over bodies with a demon's grin. The truth was strange enough, but truth often feels inadequate to men living in the shadow of death. So they built a myth. They turned the 5'5" clerk into a giant. Leonard Funk heard the whispers. He saw the way new recruits looked at him, with a mixture of awe and terror. But he said nothing. He didn't correct the exaggerations, nor did he fuel them. When officers asked him about it, he shrugged, his face settling into that familiar, unassuming expression. It was just a firefight, he would say. We got lucky. But the Army doesn't award medals for luck. The action report from Holzheim made its way up the chain of command, from company to regiment, to division, to corps, and finally, all the way to General Eisenhower's staff. The recommendation for the Distinguished Service Cross, which Funk had already earned in Holland, was flagged. The reviewers looked at the math. 1 man, 90 enemies, a submachine gun pressed to his stomach, a reversal that saved a patrol and secured a village. They upgraded it. September 5th, 1945. The White House. The war in Europe was over. The Pacific War had just ended. In the Rose Garden, President Harry S. Truman stood facing a line of weary men. Leonard Funk stood at attention. He looked uncomfortable in his dress uniform, shifting slightly, as if he'd rather be back in a supply room in Pennsylvania than standing on the president's lawn. Truman stepped forward. He held the blue ribbon of the Medal of Honor in his hands. He placed it around Funk's neck. Then, the President of the United States, the man who had just ended the greatest conflict in human history, he leaned in and whispered a sentence that would become part of American history. I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States. It was the capstone to an impossible service record. The Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, 3 Purple Hearts. Leonard Funk, the clerk duty reject, was now the most decorated paratrooper of World War II. But medals don't stop nightmares, and they don't pay the bills. Funk was discharged. He took off the uniform, folded the ribbons away, and went home to McKeesport, Pennsylvania. He didn't write a book. He didn't go on a speaking tour. He didn't run for office or try to monetize his 45 seconds of fame. Instead, he went back to work. He got a job with the Veterans Administration, VA. It was fitting. The man who had spent the war protecting his squad spent the peace protecting them, too. For 27 years, Leonard Funk sat at a desk, wading through mountains of paperwork, helping other veterans get their disability benefits, their GI Bill education, and their medical care. It was unglamorous work. It was bureaucratic and tiring. But to Funk, it was just another version of the same mission. Check on your men. Make sure they're okay. Don't leave anyone behind. He married. He had 2 daughters. He lived a quiet life in a working-class neighborhood. To his neighbors, he was just Leonard, the guy who worked at the VA. Most of them had no idea that the small, polite man mowing his lawn on Saturdays was a legend in the 82nd Airborne. He rarely spoke of the war. The Medal of Honor sat in a case, collecting dust. When reporters tracked him down in the 1970s and 80s to ask about the laughing incident, Funk would often stare out the window for a long time before answering. "I wasn't brave," he told one reporter, his voice barely a whisper. "I was just mad. They were going to kill us. I knew it. And I decided I wasn't going to let them." "And the laugh?" the reporter pressed. "Why did you laugh?" Funk smiled, a ghost of that same smile from 1945. "It was the only weapon I had left." Leonard Funk died on November 20th, 1992. He was 76 years old. He was not buried in an unmarked grave, forgotten by history. He was carried by an honor guard to Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, grave 23,734. He rests there today among the greatest heroes the nation has ever produced. But the lesson of Leonard Funk isn't about the shooting. It isn't about the 21 dead Germans or the Medal of Honor. The lesson is about the pattern interrupt. War, like life, runs on scripts. The strong dominate the weak. The many defeat the few. When a gun is pressed to your stomach, you are supposed to beg. That is the pattern. That is what the world expects. Leonard Funk reminds us that we have a choice. When the odds are impossible, when the enemy is overwhelming, and when fear is screaming at you to surrender, you don't have to follow the script. You can break the pattern. You can confuse the enemy. You can find the 1 millisecond of hesitation that changes everything. You can look death in the eye, tilt your head back, and laugh. And sometimes that is enough to save your life.